Well, this is in general the kind of thing that I like to avoid when I'm staining a painting, is allowing patterns to show up on the panel. But we've had another windy and very rainy day. Didn't go out. So from where I'm sitting, I can see water meeting shore right here. Distant hills up to about here. Some skies up to here. Foreground here. You know, I know it's a stretch. I'm using my imagination. I've never heard that. That's a negative thing. So I'm just going to take I'm going to take some raw umber. We're going to be very quick about this. I'm going to take some raw umber. I'm going to draw in a few lines. Okay, top of the hillside. Water meets distant shore. Let's just add a hint of ultramarine blue to this to make it darker and stronger. Something along those lines. Okay. Is it going to work? I don't know. It's just shapes, isn't it? But that's where you start. Sorry, my voice is... It's just worn out from choir practice tonight. Yeah. Okay. Maybe not. Okay, so that's dead center. Yeah, it is kind of dead center. Let's do something a little more interesting for this distant hill. We have to have something in there. I mean, it can't just be boring stuff. Maybe that's enough. This is likely going to be the quickest and roughest, also often called loosest, study that I've done on YouTube so far. Yeah, and by that description, it more truly fits the sense of an actual study. Playing with lines. I know they're all dipping down to the right. Don't worry about that just yet, okay? Honestly, don't worry about it. Okay, what is this? This is a little number 4. Now I'm going to wipe off my little turpentine pile of raw umber and ultramarine blue. And without getting too silly, we're going to use a number 8. Really the biggest brush that I feel comfortable using on an 8x10. That's not going to have a lot of detail on it. No foreground trees, no real rocks, or rather no important rocks in the foreground. There might be a few, but nothing too important. Okay, so I'm going to dip into my titanium white here. And my cobalt blue. And a hint of yellow ochre. Always like a bit of yellow ochre added to my cobalt blue and white, because cobalt blue is very cold. Bit of stuff there. Okay. Another shot of that. I think will work just fine. Just a touch. We don't want it to look ochre-y. We don't want it to look yellow ochre. I was going to dip into some, actually I'm going to dip into some turpentine as well. Turpentine and linseed oil. I don't know how this is going to work out. I don't have an egg timer behind or beside me. I'm not going to worry about it. But I would like to keep in mind that I want this panel to be done within a half hour, roughly. Okay, so that's kind of our aim. Now I'm adding a little bit of cobalt blue and a little bit of ultramarine blue. Okay. I'll give my brush a wipe. I'm not gonna clean my brush. I'm just gonna give it a wipe. Okay, back into the titanium white and cobalt blue with just a hint, just a small hint of ultramarine blue, and again some yellow ochre. Back into the white. A little more yellow ochre. And linseed oil. This all dives down. Let's oppose it with a bit of color going up into the sky. Not color, high value going up into the sky. Just a bit. Just a smidge. Too much of a line. Okay, back into my colors here. I want that smeared because I don't want a strong line right there at the top of the painting. Okay, so we're gonna bring that more into a blend like this. I better stop playing around because if I'm giving myself a 30-minute time limit, then I better get on with the business. When I'm actually plein air painting, I never set a timer beside me. I don't worry about the time too much, but I know from past experience that I usually have a finished study within an hour. Often, no, not often. Now and then it comes down to a half hour. So I'm just kind of doing this for the fun of things. I would like to break myself free from all the stuff I've been doing over the winter, which tends to be this and this and this. You know, using two hands and fussing around too much. I guess what I'm doing is I'm in training for plein air painting. How about that? Okay, hilltop. Hilltop. We'll be very sparing with the white. We'll go a little bit of ultramarine blue and yellow ochre. funny again, you know, I mentioned this is a bit new to me, the material that I used for in place of gesso. And it has a sort of a, it's not textured, I can't say, but it has kind of a grabbiness to it that I'm not used to. So I better add a little bit of linseed oil just to keep it slippery enough. I don't like it when it's too slippery. But the kind of grabbiness that I'm feeling is a little bit, yeah, what would you say? It's sticky. It's a bit like painting over somewhat dried syrup, and I don't like that too much. I like that green. Let's consider this area to be more grassland. Down here, all the way to be trees. Okay? Evergreens. So as I come closer, I'll add just a bit of white to it. See, it's funny, some of that paint is, I go over it a second time and it's actually wiping off the paint I put on the first time. I'm not fond of that. Maybe I should dip a little more into my turpentine. Okay. More ultramarine blue. Yeah, I'm going to dip just a bit into my turpentine. That helps. I'm also dealing with the fact that, and I think it's because I used that green that I was using, it's not dry, it's just has that, yeah, it has a stickiness to it that I'm not used to. Okay, now I'm going to add a little bit of burnt sienna to my ultramarine blue and yellow ochre. And back in the oil. Going to touch it with white. Get a line established here that I guess is reasonably straight. Don't know, didn't measure, don't care. If this, you know, if this is a study and it ends up being a larger painting, yeah, that's when I'll start to measure things, you know. But until then, I don't see the point in it. I really don't. Now, so that you know that these are trees, I will indicate a few little shapes, like tree tops poking into this grassy area. You don't want to paint individual trees, unless, you know, unless you're making a small painting, which I'm not. Okay, give that brush a wipe. I'll even give it a squeeze with some terps here. And I'm going to stand back for a second. Yeah, I think that works. Okay, get back into our yellow ochre. I think I'm going to have to put a little more yellow ochre on my palette here. How is that? It's okay. I'm going to add a little bit of white to it though. to kill it. So I'm going to add a little bit of burnt umber to my yellow ochre. Drop the chroma, not the value, but the chroma. And I don't want this thin line of green right across here. So we're gonna cut into it with our colors here and just get rid of a bit of it. I think that's better. I think that's better. Now, touch that with white. Yellow ochre and white. We're around our focal area now, so we need to remember to keep that a little more intense. Don't have to go crazy, but kind of becoming reminiscent of an area that I like to go up near, well, up into the Caribou where we used to live. You can have a transition area where it's not all grassy hills and it's not all evergreen. You get a bit of both. Let's keep that somewhat interesting, okay? All right. Interesting enough. Don't get caught up in the details. But I know what we need to do is give these evergreens a little more depth, all right? So, dee-da-dee-da-dee-da. I should have been more prepared. I should have had all of the colors I would need squeezed out on my palette here. Because I've run out of yellow ochre and I really, really need that color. I need more of it. Okay. And I also need more titanium white. So we'll put some of that on there. Oh, that lid is tight. Holy moly, okay. Find another tube here that maybe has some titanium white handy. Ugh. Nope. It's like I used a vice grip to put all my titanium white back together. All the lids on, rather. Ugh. Nope, still not. The good thing is, when my titanium white tube gets towards the end, I get lazy, so I have a whole bunch of tubes of titanium white that aren't quite finished. So I can go through them and find something that has a loose lid, and I found one. I got a bit of oil paint in my finger, but it's okay. I'll lick it off. Kidding, I'm kidding. I'm joking. Okay, let's get back to our ultramarine blue and yellow ochre. All right, let's just get back to that because we do not want that appearing to be two-dimensional. We need some shapes along the shore here. Get too fussy with my things, and I shouldn't do that. Bad habits. Bad habits. Some bad habits just never seem to go away. Okay, good enough. Now, adding to that, I'm going to take a few shots of just straight raw umber and add some white to it. And indicate a trunk here and there. Okay, that's a bit that's a bit high value. Let me drop that value a little bit. And you don't want to do a trunk and 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 a trunk. You know, you can do groups of 2, groups of 3, groups of 5. It doesn't matter. Do them in groups. Allow each group to have its own sort of miniature composition. Okay. This one is near the focal area. This is the one I want to be the most important. Now I'm going to add a little bit of cobalt blue to that, and a hint of alizarin crimson also, and we're going to call those a little bit of rock structure or shoreline or something. You know, it could be rock structure, it could be sand, I don't know. That's between you and the viewer. Again, higher value, below our sort of focal area, so to speak. Okay, it's a study, Phil. It's a study. Stop playing. Trying to stay in that half-hour limit. Actually, I hope my battery's going to last. I'm not even sure of that. Okay, scraping my palette. I shouldn't even at the moment be putting these little trunks, these little details in there. But it is what it is. Like I said, I'm just in training or retraining. We're doing some plenary type stuff. Okay, let's go to the cobalt blue. Let's go back to this titanium white. Let's go back to a bit of yellow ochre. I'm gonna go more ultramarine blue and yellow ochre on the water because I don't want to compete with the cobalt blue in the sky. How is that setting? Is that gonna be okay? Yeah, that's about the right value. It's about the right value and chroma that we're after. So we're just kind of breezing across the distant shore here, not getting too intense. We're covering a bit of territory. That's really, you know, your first few strokes, that's what you do. After that, you start dumping in more color. Okay. A little more linseed oil. Yeah, I think that's okay. A little more ultramarine blue. You know, and this study, again, it's one of those paintings where you don't worry too much about full on this side, empty on this, dark on that side, light on this. You don't have to balance everything equally. Because negative space can balance positive space. Depends on how you do it. So right now, we're not worrying about it. Right now, we're just getting a study in. That's all we're doing. Okay, we'll go a little lighter on the right hand side. No cobalt blue at all, but a hint of yellow ochre still. Might be a mistake, it might be too. Might be a bit on the light side. You know what? I think down here we can do that. I think we can go right across with that. Okay, it's a very simple thing. It's a very simple little painting. Simple, you know, but hopefully fairly effective, reasonably effective. Okay, I'm going to give my, nope, I'm not going to give my brush a white, I'm just going to add more white. More yellow ochre. More linseed oil. Don't make those brush strokes too slow, otherwise they'll be too finicky and they won't look very strong. Sometimes a round brush is nice to use for this. Actually, kind of wish I had used a round brush, but I'm not gonna break with my technique at this point. Okay. Again, I want to keep playing. I'm so tempted to keep playing in that water. But I know it's okay. I know it's okay. And I know that it's important just to trust what I've done for the moment. If I can go back and revisit it, that's fine. Because within the next 10 or 15 minutes, I will know what to do with that because I'll have this in. And this is going to be a lot darker. I have to give this brush a little bit of a cleaning now though, because I don't want my, when I mix my value, I don't want it to be too high. So, seeing as the brush is saturated with a higher value, I want to just drop it a bit. Okay. This old computer that I have upstairs, or downstairs with me, it will very happily doze off. And because it's small, weak, it was cheap when I bought it. And it's well saturated, it's well contaminated with too much use at this point. I have to just, I'm watching a video right now, or I'm in the middle of it. So if I don't, I can just run the mouse around, maybe that's good enough, I think it usually is, to keep the computer from going to sleep. But sometimes I'll just click on it quickly to make sure it stays awake. Okay, foreground. Let's go to some gray, which of course requires a bunch of raw umber. We'll add a little bit of white to it, and certainly some ultramarine blue. Okay, that's a little, I added too much white. And I ran out of raw umber. Being Saturday night, I don't want to load up too much paint on the palette because it's going to sit all Sunday. I would prefer if the stuff didn't dry out. Okay, I think that's a little better. Okay, that's a strong I think that's a reasonably strong foreground rocky ledge against the background. Now I would like some weight. I would like some weight over here. I better just add a little bit of linseed oil to that. Little more ultramarine blue, a little more raw umber, and maybe just a bit of alizarin crimson as well. Is that going to be too dark? I think it might be, but I don't care because I'm a renegade. Okay. You know what? I think I might just add more of that in. Let's keep that foreground nice and strong. Add a bit of white to it. Let's make that maybe a little more purple. Not too reddish purple, more bluish purple, but let's put a couple of shots of that in there. Let's just do it. You know, indications of rock, impressions of rock, says the guy who claims to be an impressionist. Well, I guess I should follow through with some actual impressionist paint. Okay, that's the bit of purple. I think what I'll do now is go more just towards the raw umber. I think we can afford to go a little lighter now, but less blue. Yeah, actually, definitely less blue. Broader strokes, you know? We're in the foreground now. Be strong. Even visually, I mean, that's how you see things when you're in nature. That's how you see things everywhere. The closer you are to your feet, the stronger things appear. Okay, so just to keep it sort of interesting, I'm going to lay the odd shot of a little bit of lighter gray there, and there. It's not enough. It's not light enough. More raw umber. Being very careful now. My brush is not perpendicular to the canvas. It's very parallel to it now, because I'm not so much brushing paint on as I am simply applying it. So light pressure is required. Light pressure. Low pressure is required. Okay, let's get back to our purple. Let's make it a little bit stronger, just a couple of strokes, but we're going to go back to ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, and more white. Let's see. Does that do it? I think it might. I think it might. very dark, which might be just fine. Let me just give my brush a wipe again. Our battery is getting pretty low on the camera right now. But let me just, please allow me just to put a mixture of ultramarine blue and raw umber in. So that it's not just this edge that seems so dark. I'd like to bring it across the panel a little bit. Okay, well, you know, guys, in the absence of getting out today, we still managed to put together a little panel. Personally, I really like it. It's kind of fresh, you know? It's loose, it's fresh. It does its job. No, it's not finished, and that's because it's a study. Here, let me just do a couple things here, just very quickly. I hate when you see the dark over the light. I always want to see that light over the dark. It just has a better look to it. Okay. We're going to call that done. I like it so far. I can still put some stronger highlights on it. This is all done wet and wet, obviously, so if I like it enough, I may touch it up with a few highlights. It certainly has potential to turn into a painting. You know, it could be a larger painting as a painting, a larger format, but I think even this thing has some hope to it. Alright, I'll just square off the camera again, as I sometimes do. And give you a bit of a close-up. Yeah, I like it. Hope your May long weekend is going well, and we'll talk to you soon.